Hello there. I welcome you once again to Wasi History TV. Before we begin with anything, I would urge you to subscribe to the channel and also recommend it for your friends in other schools, to also subscribe. Good. Today, I'm very, very much happy because today I'm going to introduce you to one of the oldest civilizations we have in the world. And I know that you have heard it before, you have heard something about it before, and that is the Egyptian civilization. This topic we will look at the contributions of Pharaonic Egypt to high level technology. This particular topic is very lengthy, okay? It's very, very lengthy, and so what I have decided to do is to divide it into two lessons. So this is going to be the first part one lesson. I would do a part two, a continuation of this lesson afterwards. So you look forward for the two of them. Yes, so let's zoom into what we have for today. Today we are looking at the contributions of Pharaonic Egypt to high level technology. Today we have a whole lot of technology around us. Some are sophisticated, others are not. Now we have different types of technology around. Let's look at what the Pharaonic Egypt actually, what has been their role, what has been their contribution in all these technologies that today we come across or we find ourselves having. So let's look at our lesson objectives for today. So by the end of this lesson, I will presume that by the end of this lesson, you should be able to examine the contribution of ancient Egypt in high-level technology. So you should be able to examine some of them, what has been the contribution of Pharaonic Egypt in the world of technology. So let's begin with the first contribution. So the first contribution I have for you here is the development in agriculture. Why is this a contribution to high-level technology? No, it will amaze you that the whole land of Egypt, okay, is virtually dry. A greater part of the land is virtually dry. Yet the people made sure that they had food in abundance, that food was always available. They ensured food security in as much as their land was dry. How did they do this? Now, they planted between November and May, and this was that the reason for this was that between November and May, the flood waters of the Nile had become subsided, and then plants, of course, that were cultivated were wheat, barley, cotton, olive trees, vegetables, and flax. And so what they do is that after the Nile had subsided, the Nile would deposit some black soil at the banks of the Nile. And that is why they wait between November and May to plant their food crops. Because the land was dry, they needed to plow it, to get a fertile soil, because the land was dry and hence it was not good for agriculture. So they needed to make the land fertile. And so they wait in November, May, when the Nile had overflowed its banks, the silt that would deposit along the banks, they use those silt in the cultivation of their crops. And some of the food crops that they cultivated are what we have: the wheat, barley, cotton, other things. Now, as the crops also grew, it became also, of course, necessary to water them. Therefore, the Egyptians invented a simple machine called the shadoo, which assisted in the irrigation of large acres of land. And I'll show you the shadoo very shortly. So after everything, after planting, they needed to irrigate it, because the plant needed food, water, sorry. And how do they do it? Because at that time, there wasn't anything like irrigation, pumping machine, or whatsoever that today we have. So they came out, the Egyptians came out with their own irrigation machine called the shaduf. And this shaduf was a revolutionary in their agriculture practices, because the shaduf was able to irrigate large acres of land so that their food crops will not go waste. Let's move on to the next contribution. So we've talked about agriculture, whereby they managed to, cultivate food crops, even though a greater part of their land was dry. Then we have also stated that they introduced a certain irrigation machine called the shaduf, and that is what we are going to look at, and that is going to be our next contribution. In July, the Nile rose and flooded its banks as a result of the rains in the Ethiopian highlands. The flood waters from Ethiopia carried silt, which it deposited in the Nile Valley. After the flood waters had receded, the silt refertilized and moistened the soil, making it ready for cultivation. The growing of crops took place between November and May, and during these months, Egyptian farmers used ox to plow the land and cultivated a wide range of crops, including wheat, barley, and flax. So that is what I described to you in their agriculture earlier on. Now, as the crop grew, it became necessary for them to water the crops. So what happened was that Egyptian farmers started fetching water from the Nile and poured it into specially made canals, which then supplied water to all parts of the farmland. Water from the canal was used to water the growing crops. Raising water from the Nile by hand made the work of the farmers tedious. So initially, farmers were using their hands to fetch water, because we have already, of course, learned that the Egyptian civilization began around the Nile. So most of the farming communities were found along the Nile. And therefore, after they have planted or cultivated, the farmers were fetching water from the Nile, pour them through canals to water the farmland. And this was a big problem for them. And therefore, to find a solution to this problem, the Egyptians invented a simple machine called the shaduf to speed up, the work of lifting the water from the Nile. Okay, let's see the shaduf here. So this is the shaduf that the Egyptians invented in trying to make the work easier for them. Now, this shaduf is made up of a pivotal end, and this is the pivotal end that we are talking about, a moving part. So these are wooden parts, long, of course, wooden parts, and then we have a pivotal edge here. So here it moves up and down. Now they fix a bucket to the edge of the wood, okay, as you have seen in your picture, and then this here would balance the whole bucket. So you fetch, of course, they fetch water from the Nile here, and then they pour them into the canals with the help of the shaduf. And with the help of this machine, it made irrigation easier for the Egyptians, for the ancient Egyptians, and they were able to keep food available all throughout the year. Today we have a lot of sophisticated irrigation machines, but we can't take it away from the Egyptians that they were the first civilization to adopt a system of irrigating their farms. And so, in as much as it was not a sophisticated one, today the world has been able to build on this achievement, and today we can boast of large irrigation pumps and machines. Good. So the Shaduf and the agriculture. Let's look at the next achievement, and this has been one of the most notable achievements among the Pharaonic Egyptians. Their engineering technology, the building of the pyramid. So what were the pyramids? Let's try and describe the pyramid. The pyramids were huge buildings with 4 sloping triangle-shaped sides. They were built as royal tombs in Egypt. So the pyramid that I know you have heard before were mainly used for tombs. I mean, they were used as tombs, royal tombs. What that royal tombs tells you, it means that it was used to bury royals, and particularly the pharaohs. Now, the construction of the pyramids testifies to the excellent engineering skills of ancient Egyptians. Excellent engineering skills of the ancient Egyptians. A pyramid could take about 20 years to build. Just one pyramid could take 20 years to build. For that matter, the planning for Pharaoh's tomb began soon after he was crowned. So, because the pyramids were used to bury the pharaohs, so if I'm a pharaoh and I've just been installed as a pharaoh, or what it means is that I have to start building my pyramid. That is my tomb, because it will take 20 years, not less than 20 years, to build my pyramid. And therefore, the moment I ascend to the throne as a pharaoh, my pyramid, I start to build my pyramid. That's quite interesting, right? Yes. Now, the pyramids were huge tombs constructed to serve as royal burial for the pharaohs. It was estimated that about 80 pyramids were built by the pharaoh. So all the pyramids that the Egyptians we know of, about 80 of them were built by the pharaohs. And most of the pyramids were constructed along the western side of the Nile in the course of 500 years. So out of the 80 years, they used 500 years to construct all those pyramids. Therefore, the West was thought to be the land of the dead, because over there, about 80 pyramids were found in those areas. And therefore, and all these pyramids were for various dead pharaohs. So, yeah, it could be described as the land of the dead. They included those built by Pharaoh Djoser and Sneferu. The greatest pyramid was built by Pharaoh Khufu in 2600 BC in the ancient city of Giza, and this is the biggest of all the pyramids built by the Egyptian pharaohs. This was built by Pharaoh Khufu in an ancient city in Egypt called Giza, and these pyramids are still standing today. And the great historian Herodotus, the father of history, estimated that the Great Pyramid contained almost about 2.5 million blocks of stones, carefully put together without mortar. And according to him, it took 120,000 workers 30 years to build that tomb. Is that not amazing? 2.5 million blocks of stones were just put together without adding mortar. Can you have that in mind? Picture that in your mind's eye. 2.5 million stones without the use of mortar. That is really an excellent engineering skills of the ancient Egyptians. I'll show you an image of all these pyramids in the next slides. No wonder that the Great Pyramid has been counted among the 7 wonders of the world, which refers to the remarkable construction of classical antiquity. You see, you can type and search for the 7 wonders of the world, some in China, in other areas, and the pyramid has been counted as one of the 7 wonders. You just can't fathom how these giant project was built without a mortar. Can you just believe that? And the pharaohs were buried in such a way that they were mummified. So when you visit these tombs, you realize that the the body of the pharaoh are still in the tombs. They mummify the body to prevent the body from decaying. So all of them were having their body mummified in the tomb. And they believed in life after death. So they felt that the pharaoh should be mummified so that they can live in the life afterwards. And they buried them with all kinds of items, golden items, cups, and so on and so forth. Let's look at the buildings, and then as you have seen here, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And this is the Giza, the biggest or the greatest of the pyramid that was built. This is the one at Giza, built by Pharaoh Khufu. Took 2.5 million, according to Herodotus, 2.5 million blocks put together without mortar, and they don't collapse. Just look at them standing there. They do not collapse. Same pyramid also here. This is the Phoenix, and it is believed that these, they are carved in the form of a pharaoh. It is believed that they guide the kings. They guide the kings. So you see, they are found in front of the kings, and it is believed that they guide the kings. And these were built without any mortar. Just imagine. When we talk about engineering, I can cast my mind back to some places like Dubai, and co, where you see magnificent buildings, and you are like, wow, they don't fall down, nothing happens to them, and it's crazy, And so yes, we can't fault them for that. Now let's look at this picture. This is a mummified body. This body has been there for millions of years. Millions of years, and this is the results of the mummification. You see, the body. This is a body of a pharaoh which was discovered, and it is in one of the museums. I don't know whether it's in Egypt or in Britain, one of them. But this is a mummified body. So you see that the body has not rotten. The body is still there. You can still see the face and all of that. Now, had it not been the mummification, you realize that the body will just you only get a skeleton. So this is what the mummification was about. And every pharaoh was buried in this type of coffin called the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus. That's the Egyptian coffin. These were the coffins that were used to bury the kings. So you've seen them over there. And because they believe that the pharaoh was a god, sometimes the head of the coffin was made to look like a god, as you have seen here. And the pharaohs were buried with their hands on their chest, as you have seen over here. And even in this one, you have seen the hand somewhere there. And that is why the coffin was built in that way. And even the coffin alone tells you how intelligent, how artistic the people of ancient Egypt were. Good. I know that you have been enlightened a little about some of the achievement of Pharaonic Egypt. Yes, we will continue with the discussion. Like I said, this is the first part 1 of the Pharaonic Egyptians' contribution to world history. So I would bring another 3 contributions in the next